Hello, welcome back to a new video. I actually have my student checklist back here from when I was an incoming student, so I thought I'd kind of go through it and give my best advice on what I think would be useful and maybe not so useful for this program. Do consider that things kind of change in between every cohort, so there might be minor changes here and there that I can't necessarily speak to because I don't know what they are or would be, but I think generally it pretty much stays the same in terms of equipment that you might need. So let's start off with uniforms. I feel like this was a really exciting thing for me to start buying because it just made it really real in my head. The recommended amount is 2 sets, so 2 pairs of pants, 2 pairs of shirts. And I have found that that was a good amount for me. I do know some students ended up buying a 3rd set just to kind of have something to fall on like busier weeks. Your summer semester, you'll be in the hospital 1 day a week, and then you'll be in the lab another day per week, so 2 was generally really good for that. As you kind of progress and start your clinical rotations, you will be in the hospital 2 days a week, and then you will have to be in the lab 2 times per rotation. So there will be some weeks where you will be in the hospital 2 days and then in the lab 1 day, so you kind of have to organize your laundry schedule around that if you only have 2 uniforms, but I honestly never really had a problem with that, so I would recommend start with 2, and if you feel like you're kind of falling behind on laundry or things are just a little overwhelming, you could always get a 3rd pair either delivered to you, or you can go down to the main campus to the bookstore and pick up an additional pair. Along with your uniform, you will need white shoes. There are so many different shoes that people get. A lot of people get Hoka's. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Other people get just regular Nikes. Really anything that you feel comfortable in. You do kind of stand a lot, but you're also walking around a lot and sitting a lot in your clinical days because you're doing pre-conference, post-conference with your clinical instructor. So you're not fully on your feet all the time. And I think for me, that was something that I thought like, oh my God, I'm going to be standing for 8 hours a day, and it doesn't really look like that. However, you still will need some comfy shoes, especially because then you can just continue wearing them as you begin working. The Columbia uniform policy is pretty specific about the shoe being fully white, not having any holes, not having a sole of any different color. So that part is a little bit more strict. But again, there are so many options. In addition to good shoes, I would really recommend good compression socks. I just ordered a set of 3 randomly on Amazon, but I have since learned that there are actually medical grade compression socks, which are, better. I haven't really looked into them in terms of pricing or anything like that, but I think once I start working, I probably will make that purchase. And I think had I just gotten them from the start, I wouldn't have 3 pairs of non-medical grade compression socks that maybe aren't doing as much as I think or hope they are. Some students also purchased coats. There is a blue Columbia University scrubs jacket that you can purchase, but I didn't think that I wanted to purchase it, and I honestly haven't ever felt like, ooh, I wish I would have purchased it, or I'm considering now purchasing it, just because it doesn't seem like it would give me much of an added benefit. But maybe they're warm and I just don't know because I've never used one, because hospitals get very cold. So I would really recommend, especially if you're on cold like me, to get some long sleeve undershirts that you can wear, and you're only allowed to wear white or navy blue. There are scrub long sleeve shirts, which are probably more hygienic and more up to the task, but I've never gotten those. I've just gotten regular long sleeve shirts that I also just wear in my day-to-day life when I'm not wearing the uniform. There are also scrub caps that you can very much purchase if you'd like. I have seen students using them, and sometimes I have considered getting it because you're in the hospital, there's a lot of stuff circulating around. I personally have never gotten anything in my hair, but you do get home feeling like, I need to wash my whole body. And, sometimes you wash your hair the day before or the morning of, and then you're like, oh, I don't really want to wash my hair again, but I also feel like I don't love the idea of not washing it, so maybe a scrub cap is a really good idea for that. Okay, moving on to the equipment. I have my little case here. I originally didn't get a case, and I just had my stethoscope and all my little random tools kind of floating around in my bag. I didn't love my stethoscope just in my bag because it's an expensive instrument, so I ended up getting a case like halfway through the first summer semester, and I've never regretted having it. There are many cases that you can find online. There are some really cutesy ones. I'm just simple, basic. I'm happy with this. So when I open, it has a little compartment here where I keep my stethoscope, and then this little compartment where I have my pen light. And then moving on to this side, I have these random instruments here. Before I get into the other little gadgets, I do kind of want to talk about the stethoscope actually. So I got the Littman 4 Cardiology, I believe. Yeah, the 3M Littman Cardiology 4. It was kind of what was recommended, and there is a discount if you do it through the Columbia website, which you'll get in your checklist. You just click the link and it brings you right over. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for it, but I want to say it was maybe $200-ish. Popping in really quick to talk about this website, I can link it down in the description. I found this really helpful to help me decide between the Littman models. You are not confined to only Littman. You can get whatever stethoscope you'd like, but I just thought I would start off with a good quality stethoscope because I want it to last for as long as possible. So starting with the lightweight, you can see it costs about $55. It's got pretty good reviews. It comes in a couple of cute colors. The classic stethoscope, you can see, has more variety in colors, and the price range goes from about $100 to $110, $115. And then the Cardiology 4. So this is the one that I have. And you can see here it's $208. When I click on the website that Columbia gives you to order your equipment from, it's this one here, and it's $188. So there's about a $20 discount, which is nice. I personally opted to get the laser engraving. I just put my name and a smiley face because I just thought it was cute and fun. Why not? It does cost an additional $11, and it is not refundable or returnable, which makes sense. So if you regret it, you're kind of stuck with it. Back on this website, you can look at the different accessories that they have available. So apart from replacement parts, they also have different carrying cases in a couple of different colors. And this is probably more specific to fit the stethoscope because it does have the indentation. So you definitely have that option. I personally went for something on Amazon just because I was looking for something simple that would protect it. I didn't want anything super fancy or sophisticated, and you can see you can fit a lot of different things in here. So overall, I have no complaints. If you wanted something a little bit more fun, colorful, there are plenty of options for that on Amazon as well. I don't necessarily regret buying it, but I do think, looking back now, that I was kind of eager to get, the best top of the line stethoscope, just because I wanted to say I had the best stethoscope, I guess, but it's really not super necessary. Feel free to do, what you want. I think if you're really interested in going into cardiology, then maybe it's something to consider because it's a little bit more sensitive, and there's like this kind of ruffles a little bit less, which was actually an important factor for me when I was deciding to get it. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably more comparable stethoscopes to this that aren't as expensive, especially if you're on a budget and you just want to be mindful about how you're spending. I mean, it's a good stethoscope, but I don't think it's entirely necessary. Speaking of not entirely necessary, I will tell you something that was entirely unnecessary. Tuning forks. And this is one of two. I don't know if they've changed this, but we were required to get 2 tuning forks, both of which have different frequencies. It's cool to have because you can experiment, but I've never used this outside of just oh my god, I probably shouldn't use it. I've never used this outside of just playing around with it. We did use this in lab because we had to learn how to use it properly, but the lab was filled with so many tuning forks. This is not the one we even used. The one we used is currently in my plant pot back there holding my plant up. I have found use for it, I guess, but definitely not in any clinical setting have we ever used this. And it's not even in our physical assessment checkouts. They tell you to purchase it, but I would skip. Next thing, we've got a little reflex hammer, and this we used during our lab, like physical assessment lab, to practice. And I suppose showing up prepared with the hammer to your checkout is good, but again, the lab has so many of these that you can borrow that I don't know that it's entirely necessary. You can also choose to not get it and then kind of see where it's going, because you have like 9 weeks till your checkout, and if they tell you somewhere along the way, we don't have hammers to give out to you and you're gonna need to have them, just get one on Amazon. Like, it's fine. It's not, anything, it's not anything super pressing that, and it doesn't have to be a specific model or anything. So if you want it just to have it, go ahead and get it, but I don't know that it's extremely necessary and important to get it right off the bat. I have never used this in the hospital, ever. A bandage scissor. I have personally never ever used this, ever. Like, not in hospital, not in lab. This is probably the first time that I'm like really playing with it. I just got the ones that were like on the website, and I wish I would have gotten just like a good pair off of Amazon, because I mean, they're not bad, but they're a little hard, and I have never also used this. Maybe I just haven't been in a situation where I would have needed to use it. Tape measure. This has been really handy for me, but never have I ever used it in the clinical setting or in the lab. We've never used this. Usually this could be used to like measure wounds, the size of wounds, but the hospital has little Q-tips that you use to kind of measure the inside of the wound and what's going on, and on the outside packaging there is like a little ruler situation, so usually they use that to measure wounds. I have used it all over my dorm to measure things that I need, so that has been really useful to have this for, but not for the clinical setting or for lab or anything related to that. So again, something else that I personally think you can hold off buying. You don't use it. As far as the pen light goes, this I think is a good thing to have, because you will use this to do assessments on patients in the hospital. You will do this in lab. Again, the lab has some that you can borrow, but if you want to practice outside of the lab, which you definitely will need to, this is good to just have on your person. I don't remember if this is part of the physical assessment checkout or if there's other eye tests, but not this. I can't fully remember, but I would say this is fine to have, and I don't think it's that expensive. So this, go for it. The other thing that they mentioned buying is like a timer or some sort of watch. So I just have used my Apple Watch always. I haven't felt the need to get anything additional to it. If you don't have an Apple Watch or some sort of smartwatch that has a second hand or second timer, then you definitely will need something, because you have to take pulses and respiratory rates and things like that. So that is something that you do need. I think that's all that's on the actual checklist that Columbia sends to students. I do know several students have purchased clipboards. They're the little tri-fold so that you can stick it in your pocket and it's comfortable to walk around with. You're not carrying this big thing. I personally never considered buying one when we first started, but maybe like week 2 of summer semester, I kind of started thinking about it a little bit, because you do sometimes have to write things down, and depending on your preceptor, you might get like a report sheet where you can take notes and whatever. So it kind of facilitates that because you have a surface to write on that you can then fold and stick in your pocket and keep going about your business. But honestly, I kind of felt like having this hard thing, like inflexible thing in my pocket would be more uncomfortable than just having to like find a little surface for a moment to jot something down. And so I ultimately decided against it, but I know that there are some students who absolutely love it. I used to use these little, like they're probably like this big, kind of flexible notepads with spiral rings in it. And I personally found that to be super useful because they're so small, they fit in your pocket. If you bend over, they bend with you. It's not like a rigid material. And you can just like have the back of your hand be the surface that you write against. So I have found that to be more than enough because I've never needed to take like elaborate notes on anything that a nurse is telling me that they need help with. It'll be like, take vitals for room 24, 26, 30, and 42. And you're like, okay, I have to write all that down, right? I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else, but I feel like I covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I'm going to end here. I hope this was helpful. As always, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Starting time is right around the corner for you and me both because we both start on June 1st. So that's very exciting. I mean, I'm not super excited to start again. I really need a break at this point, but it is an exciting time for all the incoming students to start on their journey. And for us who are currently here, it's kind of the beginning of the end of our RN education experience, which is a little bit bittersweet to think about. Okay, signing off here. I have one more assignment that I need to submit before I can fully unplug for a couple of weeks. And yeah, see you in my next one. Thanks for watching.